We go to section B, right? Question 7. So in 2021, Spain produced 1.4 million tons of olives, accounting for 50% of the world production. In 2022, a prolonged heat wave in Spain resulted in its olive production falling to 1 million tons. That's 400,000 lost. Draw a diagram to illustrate the likely impact of this change on the world market for olives. So the first thing is this. A prolonged heat wave is a natural disaster. That's the first thing. You have to understand what the question is asking of. So now, with natural disaster will bring about reduction in the production output. So because of the prolonged heat wave, there's reduction in the production of olives by 400,000. That means the quantity supplied of olive has reduced. Mm-hmm. Now, that is the analysis. So because the quantity supply of olive reduces, it brings about a leftward shift in the supply curve, brings about contraction in the demand curve, and a high equilibrium price. Now, the graph. Heat wave can be considered as a natural disaster, which means it will affect supply. As a result, the quantity of olives will contract, bringing about a leftward shift in the supply curve and a high equilibrium price for olives. Yes.
It will not affect demand too?
I said contract demand. The demand curve stays 1, but it will contract.
But not.
There's contraction.
Okay, why do you not join another demand?
You don't have to, because it's about supply.
Okay, because they produce and they stop producing.
Yeah. So look at the graph here. There's a reduction in the quantity of olive supplied, right?
Yeah.
From QE to Q1. This is contraction. And that will affect the supply demand curve. This is the demand curve, right? There will be contraction here. And remember the law of demand. The higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded.
Yes.
There's contraction, right? So you can say it, but this is the contraction.
Oh, okay.
Then the supply curve will shift from S to S1. And there will be a high equilibrium price
from QE to Q.
From PE to P1. So this is the analysis of the graph.
PSA from S1 to S2.
Yes, that means you are using. Yeah, you can see. That means you use P1 to P2 here.
Yeah, because here you said from Q2 to.
Yeah, there's equilibrium. This is equilibrium.
Yeah.
First, I told you when you are drawing a demand or supply curve, start with equilibrium.
Oh, okay.
So there's equilibrium in the market, QE, where S and D meets. That's equilibrium. Here, QEPE, SD. This is equilibrium. Now, the market is not at equilibrium anymore because supply reduces from S to S1. As a result, the price will increase from PE to P1, and the quantity supply will reduce from QE to Q1.
Perfect.
So start with equilibrium.
Yes.
Any question about that? So that takes us to question 8. Are you there?
Yeah.
Between 1970 to 2020, the Maldives experienced 30 major flood events. One contributing factor was underinvestment in flood defenses. Builders of new hotels are required to complete extensive paperwork to show how they plan to minimize flood risk. This results in excessive administrative costs. With reference to the Maldives, explain the difference between market failure and government failure. So, what is market failure? Market failure occurs when there is misallocation of resources. That is market failure, right?
Between buyers and sellers.
Between, it's always going to be the market forces.
Yeah, between anyone.
Market forces are demand and supply.
Perfect.
So if there's misallocation between too much or too little, it's a market failure.
Perfect.
So it's basically from producers to suppliers or suppliers to producers, from producers to consumers or consumers to producers.
Yes, sir.
Clear? So that is market failure. Then government failure. Government failure occurs when government intervention brings about welfare loss rather than welfare gain. That is government failure. Now, go back to the case study. That is where you make the mistake there. Yeah. So going back to the case study, there's a market failure based on the fact that there was underinvestment in flood defenses. Yet they said one contributing factor was underinvestment in flood defenses. Flood defenses is a public good. Yeah, so under provision of public good is a market failure.
Yes.
So that stated market failure.
Okay.
Done. Now, there's government failure as there is excessive administrative cost. They said it here that this results in an excessive administrative cost. When there's excessive administrative cost, it's a market failure, it's a government failure. So there's government failure here because there's extensive paperwork. And when there's extensive paperwork, that is bureaucracy also. That brings about government failure.
What does excessive paperwork actually mean?
Paperwork means you have to spend time putting documents together. This takes a lot of money,
Okay.
and that is excessive administrative cost. Is it clear now? Any question about market failure and government failure? Done. Then go to question 9. In the USA, 92% of people had private health insurance in 2021. It is estimated that in the USA, $200 billion per year is spent on unnecessary operations. Explain one microeconomic reason why people might have unnecessary operations in the US. So, unnecessary operation carried out by patients is an irrational behavior. So one of the reasons why people might behave irrational is because there is asymmetric information. So when there is asymmetric information gap, it might make me to overestimate the benefit of certain products. Then I overconsume it.
Can I have used information gap here?
Yes, it's the same as information gap. Or I underestimate the benefit of certain products. I under-consume it. Over, market failure. Irrational behavior. Did you get it now? So that is the first point. Now, reasons why people might carry out unnecessary operations, which is irrational behavior, might be as a result of asymmetric information. Now you define asymmetric information, which occurs when one party, here the doctors, who are considered to be, well knowledgeable or are superior doctors, they are supposed to have superior knowledge